Is all the recent news just FUD, or should we have legitimate concern about the condition of the crypto market? Let's talk about this now. What's up, gang? Carlton Flowers here, your crypto pro.
Yay!
And tonight we've got to talk about this possibility of a black swan event that I think could be looming on the horizon. So I've put together this special report for you so we can discuss some of the FUD and some of the real things that have been developing in the news that could negatively impact the cryptocurrency market. So we are going to talk about these things and try to answer the big three questions that I have been considering and a lot of people have been asking. And those three questions are as follows. Is there a legitimate concern here? Should we really be concerned? Number two, is it all just FUD? Now, to answer that question, no, it is not. Some of the things are FUD, like the story with China banning cryptocurrency for the 500th time this month. That's FUD. That's a story that's been out many, many times. We've heard it over and over again. And the purpose of releasing it is for market manipulation, to drive prices down, to shake people up and scare them into selling. The third question is, how will this affect the market? So I'm going to dig in deep and break this down quite a bit further and show you the evidence on the charts and also talk about what I think that could happen in the short term and in the long term. So let's just jump right on in to this possibility of a black swan. Now, if you're an investor, you know what a black swan event is. And if you were shocked or shaken up a little bit by the title of the video, I did that on purpose. I want to shake you up, family, friends and family, because you need to consider these things just in case that this happens, that it plays out like it did 1.5 years ago in March when the you-know-what hit, when the buggy bug came around. We had several different events that all happened at the same time, and it made this perfect storm, which negatively impacted all of the markets in the US, not just the crypto market. We call that a black swan event. It's when several things that can go wrong do go wrong all at the same time, and then it has the capability of bringing a market down to its knees. Usually we recover. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And for me, it's an opportunity to invest or to, like, say, roll the clock back and pick up things that you did not have the chance to buy before. So that's what a black swan is in general. So now let's discuss these things that are in the news and some of the recent events and put the pieces of the puzzle together. First on the list, the Evergrande fiasco and its effect on the DXY. That's the trading symbol for the US dollar. The reason why I bring this up is because people have already been putting out videos saying that Evergrande is old news now and the market has not been negatively impacted. And since all the whales and the institutions already know about it, no big deal. We're going to just sail up to 100,000 and nothing bad's going to happen. Maybe we correct down to 41K and that's about it. Now that's, in my opinion, very irresponsible thinking and irresponsible reporting, because there's a big connection here that can lend to a black swan event. And here is what it is. Tether FUD, which is not FUD. The stories that go around, some people call any negative news story FUD, and you're not allowed to talk about anything negative. But I'm throwing that out the window right now because I would rather know about these things so I can make informed decisions on my investment style. I don't care if news is positive or negative. I want to plan ahead and I want to adjust my strategy so I can make money from whatever is going on. And to answer your question, no, I don't ever short the market. All right, back to the Tether FUD. Here's the thing. Tether's not backed one-to-one by the US dollar. That's what it was supposed to be from day one, that for every Tether coin, there was $1 in a bank account that they would not touch. And it was provided in order to give more liquidity for people wanting to get in and out of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, so that you would not have to buy your favorite coin paired with Bitcoin. Or later on, it was the addition of being paired with Ethereum. So Tether would allow you to purchase directly, and it's the go-between, and allows people to buy and sell through Bitcoin and not have to wait, cash out, transfer money to the bank, let it be converted to USD, and then invest into other things. You can sell out of one coin, cash out your Tether, and go right into something else. So it's the go-between. Now, the rub is the New York Attorney General's office, I guess, had several years ago jumped on Tether's case, and they accused them of not having the one-to-one backing. Now they're jumping on them again. Rumors are swirling that they're going to investigate Tether and accuse them of not having the backing. Now, while they do not have the one-to-one backing of the dollar, they definitely don't have that. The reason why it was blown out of proportion is because Tether has investments that they have that fill the gap on their balance sheets. So instead of having one-to-one backing to the US dollar, 100%, let's say maybe 50% of that is cash, liquid USD, and the other 50% is investments in real estate, stocks, bonds, or whatever. Now, Evergrande has $30 billion in paper that Tether has actually used as an investment. So part of that slice of the pie that's backing Tether to bring its balance sheets up so it looks like one-to-one backing of US dollar, one-to-one dollar value of investment and US dollar, I should put it that way. 30 billion of that is in Evergrande. And as we know, Evergrande is on a pathway to bankruptcy. Today, or was it yesterday? It was yesterday on Friday. They did not make the mandatory payment, the interest-only payment. I can't remember how much it was, but it was some enormous amount of money, 30 some odd $1 million. You can post in the comments if you know the exact amount. Well, they didn't make that payment. And then the next bit of news that we got was that China's not going to bail them out. If they go under, they go under. Now, you tell me, if Evergrande goes bankrupt and $30 billion of that paper is backing Tether, you tell me how that's not going to have a negative impact on the cryptocurrency market, especially with the state of New York going after Tether, and with our feds going after, say, XRP, all of the digging in and the infighting that's going on between the Securities Exchange Commission and some of the projects, these major projects, and exchanges like Coinbase with all the heat they're putting on them. You tell me that there's not going to be a negative effect if $30 billion in paper is liquidated down to, say, $5 billion. Because you know, if they go bankrupt, Tether's not going to get all $30 billion that is tied up in that paper. They'll be lucky to get a fraction of it. All right? So that's just one small, considerable negative story that could lend to a black swan event. Now, even if nothing else happens, that's enough that I think it will negatively impact the cryptocurrency market. I don't think it's something that would tank it to 14,000, but it definitely is going to cause a short-term downtrend. That is legitimate FUD news. All right, what's next? The banking reserve requirement crisis. Nobody's talking about this. A few months ago, people were talking about it, and we're not hearing it now. The end of the financial third quarter in the United States is October, the end of October. We have something called the banking reserve requirement crisis, whereas banks in the United States are required to have a certain ratio of assets to liabilities. And they're supposed to meet this reserve requirement where they have so much money on the books every night by midnight. I don't know what the time is. And they have to meet that reserve requirement on the daily. Now, when ABC Bank is behind and they can't meet their reserve requirement, they call up their friends, beep, 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 over here at XYZ Bank. And they say, hey, XYZ, can we borrow $5 million until tomorrow? Sure, you can. And then they wire that money to ABC Bank. It's a 24-hour loan. ABC Bank collects on a lot of their debts that are owed the next day. They fix their balance sheets. They pay back XYZ Bank within the 24 hours for the short-term loan plus interest, and then everybody's happy. And then XYZ makes a small amount of money from giving that 24-hour loan. So there supposedly is a reserve requirement crisis where there are too many banks that are not meeting the reserves and not enough banks that have those reserves and the ability to give the 24-hour loans. The talk is that if an enormous amount of banks are not able to meet the reserve requirement, the feds are going to have to step in and lend money in order to avoid a banking crisis, a run on banks, a collapse in banking. Now, if you add that to what we have that's going on already with Evergrande and a spillover from the Tether FUD and the spillover from, say, the impending damage to the stock market that could affect banks, because I'm sure part of their balance sheets include investments in the New York Stock Exchange, the Dow, the NASDAQ, whatever, that could have an overall effect that could lend to a black swan event. Now, this word here that I'm not going to say, we got a mutation going on, and it's the certain letter mutation. What if something else happens? We're running into flu season, guys. It's going to be October here. It's going to get cold and rainy. What if we get some crazy new strain that causes another lockdown, that spikes insurance costs, that causes a run on hospitals, especially the emergency rooms and available beds? Now, every year when we go into flu season, we already get a spike and a demand on hospital beds that explodes. If we get some crazy, extra funky little mutation that happens with the you-know-what bug, that could lend to a black swan event. Hopefully that will not happen. I don't know if there's any evidence to support that happening, but I would say that's of least effect right now. Now, this one already happened. Gap down in the S&P 500 index last week. Whenever the S&P 500 is going up and then it has a tremendous gap, that is an early indication of bad news and trouble for the stock market. And it's, I think, 100% of the time that we have had the big gap after major long-term runs in the S&P 500, we've preceded a recession or a big downward movement and change in direction on the stock market. Now, the stock market is already flipped bearish, and the S&P 500 index had this big gap, and people are saying that that's a confirmation of a reversal in the trend with the stock market, and not only that, but big trouble. Like there could be a stock market crash. Now, if we have a big stock market crash, I think that directly affects crypto. Crypto is not immune to that because investor confidence goes down. People get afraid. They pull their money out. The crypto market starts to shrink. Add that to these things. If it happens at the same time, it could cause a black swan event. Then we have these nasty proposed U.S. regulations. I'm sure you've heard the news about what the U.S. government wants to do. Everywhere from tracking transactions, $600 or more, to banning stable coins so they can get their US coin and corner the market. Also, the banning of the privacy coins and adding stiff penalties like a $1 million fine and jail time if you're caught using a privacy coin. This legislation that is trying to be pushed through is very, very anti-crypto. If that passed and all these other things happen, you could have a black swan event. It definitely won't lend to a robust market. In and of itself, I think we can fight this, but it is not good, and it's something that we need to watch. Government shutdown next Thursday? Question mark, because I don't think it's going to happen, but it is possible. We have fighting going on in Capitol Hill, where they're trying to hash out a deal for temporary measures to keep the government from shutting down on Thursday. If we have a government shutdown, that will negatively impact the market. And the big thing is there's a chance that we could fall into national default. And that would be very, very bad. We don't want to default on the national debt, because then worldwide, everyone that has invested into the stock market and into the DXY, into U.S. bonds, that confidence will be eroded, and that's going to have a very, very negative impact on the markets. I don't think that's going to happen, though. It hadn't happened yet. But it's something to consider. All of this is here because you need to think about this. And so this is the main thing right here that I want to make the point. It's because we got all of these lunkheads that are talking about the crypto market is going to explode from here. Oh, we're going up, Billy. We're going to hit 70K next week and then 150 the second week of October. You've heard all the predictions. And BitBoy talking about a market cycle peak by the end of September or first or second week of October. I do watch all of his videos. I disagree with that point. But there are a lot of people that are calling this market wrong. We had a lot of positive predictions, and every day, one after the other, we see people saying Ethereum's going to explode. Bitcoin's going to explode within hours, within 24 hours, within the next few days. And what are we looking at on the market right now? Right now, we're seeing a lot of negative action. Let me see if I can scrunch this in here and just show you. We'll just look at the Bitcoin chart mainly. Let me stretch this out. But across the board, we see DXY is still rallying. It is in an uptrend. And then we get to XRP kind of dipping below this little strike zone box that I made. Bitcoin at 42,092 on the 4-hour chart. We can see that we're ticking down. We're bearish on the stochastic. This is the 1-day chart. I'm sorry. Let me flip that to the 4-hour and then expand this up. On the 4-hour, we're looking very bearish. We're jumping back into this support resistance zone that if we go below 41,000, the market's going to go down a lot further. And then when we look at the 1-day chart, the stochastic is bearish. We just had a crossover. We're at about the 35 line. If we go below the 20, it could get nasty. All right. Now let's jump back over here to the presentation. So the market outlook, we have a current drop across the board on the 4-hour, and that's what nobody was talking about. I was talking about it days ago, telling you, warning, don't be going out and spending a fortune when we're on the front end of a drop. And that's not financial advice. Don't not do something because you heard me talk about it. But while everybody's talking about things exploding, think about all the dunderheads that are out there spending money. And then we see this, and I'm like, what are you guys thinking? Look at this red candle that has happened here. While at the same time, all of the big mouths on YouTube were saying from this point, oh, it was just supposed to explode and go straight to 57K. Now, even though this is not that big right now, all indications say that this is going down further, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens because that can change on the daily. But for right now, it's like a NASCAR race and the caution flag is out. We're not shutting down the race. We're waving the caution flag. Be careful. That's my advice to you, and be watchful of who you're listening to on YouTube, especially these big fat mouths talking about the market spiking. All right, we're short-term bearish on the 1-day. What I'm saying is short term, I would call it 2 weeks. I'm not talking about this is the end of a market cycle peak. I'm saying that first to second week of October, it's looking bearish. I mean, at best case, maybe say 5 to 7 days bearish. All right. Because when you look on the 1-day chart, the candles on this 1-day chart take 1 day to complete. And so each tick here, that's one absolute day. And so to get to the bottom of the stochastic on the 1 day, as opposed to the 4-hour, that would put us, way out here in October. So if we do jump down here, we could finish this out maybe somewhere around the first or second week of October as we're kind of dipping down. Right here, if we break this, then we might go down to the point of control at 37K. That's the first one I'm looking at. If you want to see my full Bitcoin video about where I think things are going to go, you can watch that. But that's just 37K is the brief version for right now, as we're just discussing this possibility of all of these negative events coming to fruition. Okay, so there's a possible short-lived effect of everything. Actually, it's not possible. It's happening right now. We already see it. And the Tether story is a definite effect that could happen, but it could be short-lived. It might be a few weeks, maybe a few days, but then I think we're going to rebound from that, and I think we're going to resume the market, and I expect that to be late October, mid to late October. I don't think that we have experienced a market peak, and so I'm moving forward with my game plan that I've been talking about on all my videos, where I'm DCAing. That's dollar cost average. In other words, when we hit each monumental drop, I buy bits and pieces of all my favorite projects to bring my overall price down instead of unloading all at once. The best time to buy in the market is when the market is going down and when negative news abounds. It's not a good thing to buy during a frenzy when the market is peaking. So that's just about it. Whoops, that's from my last presentation. That's about all I've got. Post in the comments what you think about the short term in the next couple weeks, 3 weeks. And also tell me your thoughts about our different bits of FUD, what you think is FUD and what's not. Clarify any mistakes that I've made. If you are an expert on the fundamentals and on the news, I'm not, but I just thought it was necessary to bring this up so we can all take it into consideration. So stay tuned. I'll be back again soon with full reports on some of your favorite crypto projects with the technical analysis. And tomorrow I will be joining Daniel Lee to talk about my investing background and the OMI project and NFT collection on the VV app. That's all I've got. This is Carlton, and I am out.